Welcome back, everybody. It's Max from Paper Gold and Common Ground Finds with another Paper Gold founder and member. I have Thomas here, and we are going to talk about not one book by an author, not two books by an author, but the same book sold multiple times that has garnered a lot of money. And we're going to have Thomas talk about the story of why he believes this book is getting a lot of money. And it's a book that you can find at your local thrift if you have your eyes out. So, Thomas, talk to us about this book and then get into the idea of how you found it, because your business, your day-to-day business of selling books is wildly interesting too.
Yeah. So, hello, everybody. I know I don't appear too much on social media, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what I do. The book in question today is Entertaining by Martha Stewart. To many of you, this is a book. Oh, wow. I'm not surprised. But to many others, it's a book that you wouldn't expect. Martha Stewart is a popular name. And a lot of times, like you think of a James Patterson or a William Sonoma cookbook, just any big name, their book doesn't necessarily make a ton of money. This is different, though. Reason being is that you want to get right into it. Why this book is
Well,
popular right now?
let's do this. You've sold, let me, in case I've lost track, you've sold 3 copies of the same book, yes?
Not just three, five,
Now 5 copies.
five
All right.
copies.
So if you have it in front of you, give us the price of each one of those 5 books sold, and then we'll get into we'll deep dive it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So the first one sold in October of last year for $36.
Okay.
Then one in November for $290.
That's a jump in price.
And we'll get into why.
Mhm.
Then December 29th, $187. December 30th, $161.44, and yet another one that same day for the same price.
All right. So you're averaging well over $150 for a Martha Stewart book. For those of us that book hunt, for those of us that go to thrifts, digging Gaylords, we know that for years and years, Martha Stewart books were everywhere. Thomas, why is this one garnering this kind of money?
So, because of the group, everyone is always hunting for what movie is coming out, what TV show is coming out, what documentary is coming out. And more recently, later last year, a documentary on Martha Stewart came out on Netflix. I
Mhm.
haven't watched it, but I've heard about it. And because
Are
of
you sure about that? I mean, you're just not saying that, are you?
maybe I've seen a couple episodes. No.
Okay. Just want to make
Um, it came out on Netflix, and because of that, everyone's going crazy, wanting to get that book now. That happens with movies, that happens with TV shows. Anytime a book is featured, or an author is featured, or their book gets turned into some sort of media content, the popularity goes skyrocketing, especially when it first releases.
Right.
So,
And when you say group, just so not everybody may understand that, you
mhm.
mean the Patreon group Paper Gold that you and I run.
Yep.
And we have a hashtag in the Discord all about books in the film, and things to look out for in that respect.
And I'm not just saying this to say that. I genuinely mean it. Like that people have made hundreds, if not
Oh,
thousands of
sure.
dollars because of those bolos. Like another one, if you haven't done a video with somebody on this, you should. But the Ronald Reagan
Mhm.
tie-in, movie tie-in book.
Yeah, we've done
Um,
that. We've also done the Christmas movie Die Hard, the book that Die Hard, the movie was based on. Someone in our group had sold
mhm.
that book for a very good amount of money too. So it is the price of this book now dropping, or because you sold 5 copies, is it still hitting the $150 plus mark?
I'd say it may have dropped a bit, but it is still extremely popular. Like as you saw, it went for $36, which is still a
Right.
good book in October. And then the documentary releases. I'm not sure of the exact date on that, but then uh, the one that sold for 290 was a first edition, first printing. Printing with this book matters completely.
Mhm.
And the ones that sold for a little less were later printings, but they still sold for an incredible amount of money.
And would you say that all the ones that sold, while they may not have been first printings, were all first editions?
Yes, all were first editions. The latest printing that we sold was a 20th.
Okay, beautiful. So that's
Actually, no, the 26th printing was in October, but that
all
was
right.
before the popularity spike.
Right. And so what that tells me is for 26 printings plus, of a first edition, you know that book has, millions of copies out there, which brings me to the question of explain to people what you and your partner do in the book world and why these copies are so plentiful because there's so many out there, but why are you getting so many of them?
Yeah, so we work with libraries in the Chicagoland area, and with that, we get their discarded books, but also their donations that they get. And this is a very unassuming book. Like I was telling you, it's like an older cookbook, entertaining design-esque book. It doesn't really catch your eye. You've seen a million Martha Stewart books. Why would this one stand out? So to a lot of these friends of the library groups or even the library staff members that give us the donations, that book just, it's a slip through the crack and it ends up in our
Right.
bin.
And because
Um,
it's so common, nobody thinks there's any value attached to it.
No, because there's many other Martha Stewart titles that aren't worth a ton of money. So therefore, what makes you think that this one is? And unless you're in tune with what trends are in the book world or what's a good seller and what's not, you might not know. And I'm sure many of us pass this book up on the thrift store shelves. I believe a lot of the copies don't have barcodes.
Right. But I guarantee you right now, if people watch this video and they go to at least 4 thrift stores after watching this video, I think within the first 4 thrift stores, they're going to find a copy of this book.
I would not doubt it at all, really. An interesting thing about this book is that losing my train of thought, actually. Oh wait, yeah, no, it's a story regarding how we obtained one of them. So we do our pickups at the libraries, and some of them have like a recycle bin of books that we don't take, or because of condition issues or whatever it may be, they just recycle the books on our behalf, which is we can appreciate that because they're books that can't be redistributed.
Right.
So we dig through the bins because like this book in particular, it slips through the cracks, and many other books do. So we're like, oh, we dig through and we take some more books with us. So we dig through, and I'm like, I see this red book in the bin, and I pull it out, and I'm like, wait a minute, why is that in here? So we got one of these books that would have otherwise gotten recycled and made $150 off of it. So
Unbelievable. I'm going to assume while you're at 5 now, while this movie still has a little flame to it, you're probably going to hit 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 copies when it's all said and done
I don't
before,
doubt it.
yeah, before the price continues to drop. Um, so let me ask you this then. Based on this book, what advice would you give people who are book hunters? Maybe they're part-timers, maybe they're hobbyists, maybe they're full-timers, but
Mhm.
what sort of advice would you give to people who may not be in the Paper Gold Patreon and have this information at their disposal because we have it in the hashtags? What would
Yeah.
you give them for advice to be looking out for in the next couple months or a year?
Yeah, the best advice I could give is to stay on top of the trends and just keep a lookout for what movies and TV shows and documentaries are releasing that relate to authors or entertainers that have books, whatever it may be. Like if Dwayne The Rock Johnson has a documentary that comes out about him, if there's a book by Dwayne The Rock Johnson or signed by him, everything regarding him and his book or whatever it may be is going to skyrocket in value. So pay
Yeah.
attention to the trends and just try and look for those books before the trends come out. Even buy them on eBay and take a little bit of a gamble because there's a chance it might go up.
That's a great point, and I'll even give people watching this a little bit of a hack. They can go to Google right now and they can type in, even though we just started 2025, they can type in 2026 films to be released. And those films are already in production or pre-production, and they can start looking at the films that are going to be coming out in 2026 and start buying copies of those books if they are scouting it and think that it might be a hit, and then they can buy early copies of that book.
And just one example, I'm not even sure of this with certainty, but I'm pretty positive that there's going to be another Dune part, right?
Sure.
There's many other Dune books in the series. Look for when that next Dune part is going to release, and then just start looking for those books in the thrift stores. They're plentiful. Any Dune related book, hold on to it, wait for that third movie to release, and then you can start to sell them. Another piece of information is that just because a movie came out previously does not mean that book related to the movie won't spike again.
Sure.
If a book gets released on, or sorry, a movie gets released on Netflix that's been out for five,
Mhm.
10 years, that is going to gain a whole new spike in popularity because it's going to go to a whole new audience who's never seen that movie and they want to
And
read the book to go along with it.
and
So,
to couple that idea, books that are mentioned on podcasts all the
oh
time.
yeah,
Really,
oh yeah.
if a book gets mentioned on a podcast and you hear that, go jump on that book. Go see if there's any cheap copies available because whatever that podcast is, someone's going to want copies of that book that this guest is mentioning.
And I've seen this a lot with health related books and podcasts. You see them mention a cookbook or a book on a particular diet, and then that book skyrockets. Or books within that niche even just go in popularity.
Look at this. We started with Martha Stewart, and look at the paper gold information we're giving out right now. We're giving everybody the tricks of the trade. So that's an amazing story. I want to do this again with you in a couple months and see
Yeah,
if 5 turns into 10.
we'll
But
see.
I know, there's going to be other documentaries coming out that we're all going to be buying books on, and this is another avenue of finding books. Any last thoughts for anybody out there? Not just on Martha Stewart, but on the book selling industry going into 2025. We're only a week into it now.
This is something I want to do a deeper dive on myself, and I want to discuss more with the group. Is just staying on top of your data. You can really get caught up in the day-to-day shipping and selling books that you forget to take a look at your numbers and make sure that you're profitable and that you're not losing money, whether that be on fees, etc. So stay on top of it and make sure that you're making the right choices. And if you recognize a poor pattern, then make some changes in your business to improve it.
And we're here to help you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Thomas.
No problem, Max.